were in exile. So it is promise and gives them hope in the midst of desolation that they saw. So turning to our gospel reading, Luke chapter 21, verses 5 through 19. Listen for God's word for you. Some of his disciples were remarking about how the temple was adorned with beautiful stones and with gifts dedicated to God. But Jesus said, "As for what you see here, the time will come when not one stone will be left on another. Every one of them will be thrown down." "Teacher," they asked, "when will these things happen? And what will be the signs that they are about to take place?" He replied, "Watch out that you are not deceived, for many will come in my name, claiming I am he. And the time is near. Do not follow them. When you hear of wars and revolutions, do not be frightened. These things must happen first, but the end will not come right away." Then he said to them, "Nations will rise against nation and kingdom against kingdom. There will be great earthquakes, famines, and pestilence in various places, and fearful events and great signs from heaven. But before all this, they will lay hands on you and persecute you. They will deliver you to synagogue and prisons, and you will be brought before kings and governors, and on all account of my name. This will result in your being witnesses to them. But make up your mind not to worry beforehand how you will defend yourself, for I will give you words and wisdom that none of your adversaries will be able to resist or contradict. You will be betrayed even by parents, brothers, relatives, and friends, and they will put some of you to death. All men will hate you because of me, but not a hair of your head will perish. By standing firm, you will gain life." This is the gospel of our Lord. Thanks be to God. Over 100 years ago, my grandfather built his home in Jefferson City with more than 2 feet of concrete everywhere. He was determined that no fire was ever going to destroy his house or bring it down. Now, when the tornado hit in Jefferson City, I wondered how that stood. And I wondered what would happen in an earthquake, because that's very different dynamics. When we build things, we plan for them to withstand the test of time. Some do, at least for a while, and some don't. We've seen that before. I've seen some that they built that were down in South Padre Island, where they built this beautiful new hotel, and the land shifted, and they never were able to finish that building. So sometimes it's gone before it ever starts. The Titanic was advertised as unsinkable until it sank. No one imagined the Twin Towers crumbling from a plane. People build beautiful mansions out in California, never expecting earthquakes, mudslides, floods, wildfires, any of those things to happen to their home. We often stand in awe of great, ornate, grand architecture, like the Taj Mahal, or the Great Pyramids, or one of Frank Lloyd Wright's many houses. One of them's for sale, by the way, close by in Kirkwood. So, there's one in Kirkwood, but there's one up for sale in Jefferson City, I guess. I'm sorry. So you still have you'll pay quite a bit for it. But the disciples were distracted with how beautiful the temple was that Herod built. It was the second temple. And it was impressive. Enormous stones from Jerusalem for its walls. Wealthy worshipers coming to dedicate their gifts. It was Herod's masterpiece. known to be a great builder. Jesus warns that people shouldn't put their faith in such structures because someday it will crumble. Two questions come to the disciples' mind, probably would come to ours as well. When? And what will be the signs? Jesus tells them three things that would happen in the future, but they won't all happen at the same time. They won't all be immediate. Impostors will come and they will try to trick the faithful. War and conflict will rage all around them. And national disasters will become prevalent. Just when it seems like things couldn't get any worse, right? Then Jesus tells them, you will be arrested. You will be persecuted. You will be thrown into prison and hauled before the authorities. He's getting personal here, stepping on our toes, isn't he? Jesus says, this will give you an opportunity to testify. Say what? Is that really the opportunity that most of us want, or for which we have prepared our lives for? Most of us look for opportunities to advance ourselves, don't we? To earn a better wage, to feel safe, secure, and yes, comfortable. That's not what Jesus is offering. Any of you want to go to prison right now? No, we don't have many signing up, do we? That's not exactly safe, secure, or comfortable for any of us. Prison life isn't what most of us want. I was reading something that someone posted this week. Life is not meant to give us what we want, unless what we want is to be broken open so the light can get free. God's light shines in the darkest places through the people who have survived the unimaginable. When survivors speak, we listen. Their words tend to be raw, honest, genuine, and they capture our attention. They aren't polished, scripted, or eloquent. They are real, and they are relatable. They touch the core of our being, reminding us that with God's help, we can overcome whatever comes our way. That being comfortable or feeling safe, secure, isn't everything. Life is far more important than the material things. We can replace those things. We hear stories of people surviving wildfires, floods, earthquakes, tornadoes, hurricanes, and they almost always say how grateful they are to be alive or to have certain members of their family still around. The material things can be replaced. So often we worry about our stuff. An old story I remember hearing years ago was about a man traveling by train, and he was in the sleeper car one night, fast asleep, when he hears a lot of commotion outside. And so he listens in and he hears that someone has been robbed. So he grabs all of his stuff and he holds on tight to all of his stuff because no one's going to steal his stuff, and he tries to stay awake all night long. But eventually, he's overcome by sleep. And he nods off. And when he wakes up, he looks all around to see if his stuff is there. No. He's been robbed too. His response was, "Thank God, now I can actually get some sleep." We put locks on our doors, bars over windows, fences around our house, trying to protect ourselves. Well, some of that is good safety measures. It doesn't protect us from everything. We hear about people needing walls and fences to keep others out, harming keeping others from harming them. But how much do they really protect? Most true thieves know how to get in anyway. And I thought I'd give you a story from history. In ancient China, the people wanted security against the barbaric hordes to the north. So they built the Great Wall. You know the Great Wall of China? Well, it was so high that no one could climb over it, they thought, and nothing could break it down, they thought. They settled back to enjoy their peace and security, and during the first 100 years of the wall's existence, China was invaded 3 times. Not once did the barbaric hordes break down the walls or climb over it. Each time, they bribed the gatekeepers and they marched through the gates. The Chinese were so busy on the walls of stone, they forgot to teach their children about integrity. Are we so busy building protection that we overlook God's gracious care? We may go through tragedies, but we don't go through it alone. God is with us, and sometimes God can turn our tragedies into blessings. We hear stories of it all the time, of people saying that they would never have gotten their education if it hadn't been for something, or they never would have dared to try something new if it wasn't for the tragedy they went through. And some of our greatest hymns come out of someone's tragedy, and they continue to inspire others who are going through tough times. Our first hymn wasn't usually an opening hymn, so I'll tell you the method to my madness. We'll start with our second hymn that we're going to have after the sermon. Born in 1889 in rural Georgia, Thomas Dorsey grew up to be a prolific songwriter and an excellent gospel and blues musician. As a young man, Dorsey moved to Chicago, playing in churches, clubs, and theaters to try to support his family. In August of 1932, struggling Dorsey left his pregnant wife in Chicago to be the featured soloist at a large revival in, guess where? St. Louis. After his first night of the revival, Dorsey received a telegram simply stating, "Your wife just died." He raced home to discover his wife gave birth to a son prior to dying in childbirth. The following day, his son died. After burying his wife and son in the same casket, Dorsey withdrew from family, friends, and music, refusing to compose or to play anything. Sometime later, though, still in the midst of agony and despair, Dorsey sat in front of a piano, feeling a peace wash over him. He heard a melody in his head that he had never heard before, and he began to play it on the piano. That night, he recorded his testimony in the midst of his suffering. "Precious Lord, take my hand. Lead me on, let me stand." You know the song. Another one that we already heard is "It Is Well With My Soul." Or in some of our hymnals, it's called "When Peace Like a River." The composer was an active Presbyterian layman who lost his 4 daughters in a tragic shipwreck. His wife survived. He wrote this hymn while he was sailing to meet his wife in Paris following the tragedy. God gave him the words, he said. And God gave Gloria Gaither the words. that actually came back to speak to her in another time. She wrote, because he lives in the shadow of darkness. When nothing in the world seemed to be right. There was the Vietnam War going on. There was civil rights and burning of places. And people were struggling everywhere, trying to speak out for justice, not knowing all the revolutions that would happen and the changes that could occur, but hoping that someday things could change. And in this midst of chaos in the world, they found out they were expecting their third child. And she's wondering, what kind of world am I bringing this child into? And she sat down. They hadn't been writing music for several years, but she sat down, and this came to because he lives, came to her. When her father died, the last verse spoke to her like it was brand new, like she had never heard it before, even though she wrote it herself. But it spoke to her in a time when she needed help, going through her grief. So pay attention to the words that we have in our hands today and any day. Many of them come out of the toughest times in life. We have an opportunity when we go through our tragedies to have God work through us in unexpected ways, saying words that we never would have imagined would have come out of our mouths. And usually, even in the midst of tragedy, we can be grateful. My father used to say, you can grow bitter or you can grow better. The choice is ours. With God's help, we can all grow better. When everything around us crumbles, stay calm. God is then speaking to us in unusual ways. If we can stay calm, God can speak through us as well, offering us the opportunity to shine light in the darkest places around us. May we have the courage and the audacity to let God shine in the midst of the darkest hours of our lives. In Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Let us be in an attitude of prayer. Generous God, we thank you for the many gifts you bestow upon us, including the opportunity to gather together, to share one another's giftedness, to know that you have a plan for our future. We are grateful for the opportunity to grow in our faith by listening and dialoguing with each other. Thank you for giving us diverse ideas and the people around us, so that together we can find better solutions that you offer us. Help us to lift each other up, following the example of Jesus. We pray for all of those who are ill, those we know in our hearts, those we've listed in our prayers, such as Carol, for Mike, for all those who are going through tough times. We pray for those traumatized by another shooting. We ask for systematic solutions to the violence in our society. We pray for those who are suffering from mental, emotional, or spiritual anguish. We ask for healing in a variety of ways. Give us strength, courage, and the tenacity when things seem to crumble all around us. Guide us to find meaningful ways to make our church, our community, and our world a better place for all. Help us now to pray as Jesus taught us, saying, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Thy kingdom come, thy will be done, on earth as it is in heaven. Give us this day our daily bread, and forgive us our debts, as we do forgive our debtors. And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. thine is the kingdom and the power and the glory forever. Amen. One of the things I didn't think about was that we have prayer requests come after this. So anyway, I'll figure it all out sometime. Just hang in with me if you can. So we're going to stand now, if you those who are willing and able, and we're going to affirm our faith, and then we're staying standing for the hymn Precious Lord. Okay? Let us affirm our faith as we say, we believe in God the Father, infinite in wisdom, power, and love, whose mercy is over all his works, and whose will is ever directed to his children's good. We believe in Jesus Christ, Son of God and Son of Man, the gift of the Father's unfailing grace, the ground of our hope, and the promise of our deliverance from sin and death. We believe in the Holy Spirit as a divine presence in our lives, whereby we are kept in perpetual remembrance of the truth of Christ, and find strength and help in time of need. We believe this faith should manifest itself in service of love, as set forth in the example of our blessed Lord, to the end that the kingdom of God may come upon the earth. Amen. Our hymn now is Precious Lord, Take My Hand.